Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello. It's been a while.
It's been a while. So this isn't going to be the first episode of the month, but this is our first episode that we're recording for this month.
Yes.
And we have just come back from our cruise. We're kind of have settled back into, unfortunately, land life. I miss that boat. I miss...
You were just saying last night you wanted to be back on a cruise. I was very surprised. I
hadn't realized we hadn't been on one in almost a year.
Yeah.
Or at least I hadn't. You'd gone on one with your gals, but I hadn't gone on. I didn't realize it until it was last April.
Yeah.
And when we got back on the ship, I was like, I know we keep talking about Vegas, but like, what if we went on another cruise?
I'm down.
All right.
You know.
Okay, cool. Well, I figured I wouldn't have to
twist my arm.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like the easiest, but like, hey, let's go to.
But if we go on one, I kind of want to do something out of Florida. Like, yeah. I'm thinking like maybe we bite the bullet and we do Icon or
Utopia.
One of them, because I feel like we need. Now that they're doing the badges and the apps of all the ships we've been on,
yep.
I mean, they know how to get you, because now I need those badges.
Now we need them.
Yeah.
Gots to have them.
Gotta have them.
Right.
Good vacation. We're back.
Actually,
it was even crazier for me, because you came home and had a work day.
Yeah.
I flew out.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had 2 days off.
I did.
And I literally spent 4 straight days in the Baton Rouge airport.
Yep.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
You didn't stay there all 4 days, but
I was back-to-back trips.
Yes.
It was nuts. But I'm home now for like 9 days.
I'm very happy that you're home.
Yay. All right, we're back.
We're so back. All right, so we are continuing, because this isn't our first episode. I keep having to remind myself. We are continuing Anna Month.
Yep.
And we are entering, so this is a show that you watched 1970. Yeah, so you had to have been watching it like on reruns.
Yes, I probably started watching it later in rerun time.
And so this show was a little bit of an inspiration for you. And when we first started talking about doing this podcast and doing what shows we wanted to do, I very clearly remember this is one of the first shows that you talked about when we talked about, like, because I think originally we were making a list of shows, being like, okay, because this was back when we were still doing like Jeff's favorite, Anna's favorite.
Right. Yeah.
So we were like, list all your favorite shows. And, I think you were like, how could I, how can we do that? And I'm like, well, just do it by eras. Do it by eras of your life. Like, what were you watching when you were a kid? What were you watching when you were a teenager? And I remember this being this and also the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Correct.
Being the two shows that you brought up first and the most, which works because we're doing the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yep.
I did, when I was doing all of the research for this show, I was very disappointed in myself for not knowing how big of a deal the show was.
Oh, yeah.
I am very, like I said, I'm supposed to be the pop culture guy, and I did not realize it, and it'll be in the episode and series information. But it made me want to keep watching more episodes.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Because I want to know, because I want to see. We'll talk about all that in a minute. But yeah, we're doing the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It's a show that you grew up watching. Was it one of those like after school or one of those like Sunday morning, Saturday morning?
No, I think I watched the reruns like during prime time.
Gotcha.
Dick Van Dyke was definitely a weekend before church.
Right. Because,
I don't know why it came on Saturdays
right.
at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And
that was the show where you never watched a full episode.
Yeah, because we always had to leave at like 5:20.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, so.
First episode we ever recorded that you're never going to hear.
Yeah, and so so I knew of Mary Tyler Moore from the Dick Van Dyke Show. So when I, started noticing this on reruns at night, I started watching it because I loved her. I mean, she was just probably like the most famous TV actress around at the time.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to think.
Yeah, that and probably like Lucille Ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably for the time. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. So, as always, Anna's going to start us off with some episode and series information.
All right. The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Love is All Around. The Mary Tyler Moore Show was an American sitcom that aired on CBS from September 19th, 1970 to March 19th, 1977 for 7 seasons and 168 episodes. The series was created by James L. Brooks and Alan Burns. Brooks would go on to create shows such as Taxi and The Simpsons and direct films such as Terms of Endearment and As Good as It Gets. Burns started his career as an animator for shows like Dudley Do-Right and Rocky and Bullwinkle and was co-creator for The Munsters,
loved that show.
Which is one of my sister's absolute favorite shows. Shout out to Rebecca. The pilot was also co-written by Brooks and Burns and was directed by Jay Sandrich. Sandrich frequently directed pilots for shows such as The Bob Newhart Show, Empty Nest, and The Golden Girls. The Mary Tyler Moore Show centers around Mary Richards, a single and independent woman who has recently moved to Minneapolis on the heels of a broken engagement. Again, there's our broken engagement trope. See, it even started in the 70s.
Yep.
The series mostly revolves around Mary's new life in Minneapolis as she adjusts to her new neighbors and new job working as an associate producer for WJM, a local TV station. The main cast includes the titular Mary Tyler Moore as the sincere Mary Richards, Ed Asner as Lou Grant, Mary's grumpy boss, Gavin MacLeod as Murray Slaughter, the TV station's wisecracking head writer, Ted Knight as Ted Baxter, the vain, dim-witted anchorman for the 6 o'clock news, Valerie Harper as Rhoda Morgenstern, Mary's candid upstairs neighbor and eventual best friend, and Cloris Leachman as Phyllis Lindstrom, Mary's meddling friend and landlady. Betty White and Georgia Engel would join the cast later in the series. The Mary Tyler Moore Show is considered to be one of the most influential TV shows of all time and was a show that changed TV forever. Time magazine stated that the series liberated TV for adults by being a sophisticated show about grown-ups having grown-up conversations. The Associated Press said that the show took 20 years of pointless, insipid situation comedy and spun it on its heels by pioneering reality comedy and the establishment of clearly defined and motivated secondary characters. Tina Fey, co-creator and lead actress of 30 Rock, explained that the Mary Tyler Moore Show was the main influence and inspired 30 Rock's dynamic relationships.
I totally see that now. Like I watch 30 Rock, so like
I don't know why I never caught on to 30 Rock because I love Tina Fey. Friends co-creator Marta Kaufman said that the series finale for Friends was influenced by the series finale of The Mary Tyler Moore Show. The series was nominated for a total of 67 Primetime Emmys, winning 29 of them, including Outstanding Lead Actress for Mary Tyler Moore and Outstanding Supporting Actor and Actress for Ed Asner, Valerie Harper, Ted Knight, Cloris Leachman, and later Betty White.
And everyone in the cast had been nominated. Those are just the ones that won. Like Georgia Engel was nominated. Like the guy that played the head writer, he had been nominated. Like everyone in the cast had been nominated at some point.
Oh, Gavin MacLeod?
Yeah.
You can currently watch the entire series on Hulu.
That's just really interesting. That what kind of grabbed me was the TV for adults. like about grown-ups having grown-up conversations. I never really thought about in 1970, it was just a lot of family. It was just a lot of family sitcoms.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think back to Dick Van Dyke, I mean, it was, in the house, and him coming home from work, and just kind of the slapstick, fumbling,
right.
Kind of comedy that was.
And you had like the Brady Bunch, and you had all of the shows from the 60s that all kind of were family dynamic. In this, really, I'm not going to say it was the first show because I have no knowledge of that, but like definitely like the most popular show that I mean, other than Phyllis's daughter, who I seriously doubt has like a major part on the show. It was just all adults, and usually there's like, it's funny because I remember saying this in the Dick Van Dyke episode that once again no one's ever going to hear,
unless we decide to do it.
No, I deleted it. It's gone.
Or redo it.
Redo it, right? The original recording when we didn't know what we were doing.
Oh yeah, it was pretty bad
when we were upstairs.
Oh god,
sitting side by side, which
in
I
the heat.
Can't even imagine doing that.
Oh
now.
my gosh, yeah.
I remember I kind of have a huge gripe because I grew up with 90s family sitcoms, and I have a huge gripe with kids kind of not being annoying, but like kind of derailing a show and just kind of it being about the cute little kid. And I really like that Mary Tyler Moore it really is a show about adults, and it really is like a more mature sitcom. And I wasn't surprised by the humor because it was 1970. Like some of the, like when Mary's being interviewed by by Ed Asner, and the questions that he was asking her, but she was saying, you can't ask me, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what surprised me, because I think in other sitcoms, that humor, I don't think the female character would be saying something back. I think she would be like, what? Or would be like answering I don't know. Like it felt like, this was intentional. Like they were like, no, we're going to tell a different story, and we're gonna
and this was
show
definitely
a different perspective.
The era of women's lib. I mean, exactly. The 70s was definitely women were now out in the workforce. I mean, not to like talk about like political issues and things, but I mean, again, we always have political issues, but
right.
Birth control was now readily available, and women were, divorce was sort of starting to become acceptable. Not that she was divorced, she had been engaged, but women were now being on their own,
but like, I like that the show was kind of giving this message of, like, it's okay that she's single. Like, it's okay that she's living on her own. And
it's okay to talk back to a man who is
being extremely disrespectful. And
correct.
Granted, it's all in the concept of comedy. But, like, yeah, I was just very surprised by kind of the back and forth and all of that. All right, so what was it? And I'm sure we kind of just touched on it a little bit. But what was it about this show? Because now watching it and now having this conversation, this show is so Anna-coded. So it's just like, this is such an Anna show, knowing you now. So like, what was it about this show that grabbed your attention when you were a kid? Because you became Mary Tyler. You became Mary Richards. You became Mary Richards.
Oh, and even more so than we'll talk about the details here in just a second. But, I did think it was cool that she was on her own. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about the episode, like showing of women going out on their own, like Alice, Mary Tyler Moore, New Girl, all of those kind of things. I know this is going to sound just super silly, but it was really the opening, like the love is all around. I mean, that just first off is super catchy. It's one of the most famous TV openings.
I've never watched Mary Tyler Moore, but I know the opening credits and the theme song.
But it was like being a girl from the South. And of course, this was Little Anna. And I talk about this all the time, that you just sort of, I use TV as sort of like travel or like, not escapism, but like going to a new adventure in my mind. So seeing snow, on the show, like in the opening and stuff like that. Her apartment in the house, like I thought it was super cool.
She had a pretty cool
that
apartment.
She had like the sunken living room again, a la Three's Company. I don't know why I thought a sunken living room, but I think a lot of people like who grew up in the 70s
still think a sunken living room is cool. So you're good.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it was just all of those sort of silly things. Also, again, I look back, and while my parents were married, and obviously until my father passed away, I talk a lot about my mom being the head of the household because my dad was gone a lot for work.
Yeah.
So it was also interesting for me to be able to compare my mom to someone like Mary Tyler Moore, because my mom was really, in a sense, and no disrespect to my father, she was kind of a single mom.
Yeah.
Because my dad was gone so much. But I feel like my mom was a strong person.
Oh, yeah.
And so I loved seeing that with Mary Tyler Moore. And especially in this episode, because when you talk about the pilot summary, stuff happens, along the way where she sort of stands up for herself in just the interview.
Yeah.
And then when her ex shows up, and I think it must have been hard for women to do that.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is. Let's not pretend.
Especially in 1970.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, none of that surprises me. Like I said, you became Mary Richards, so you lived it, which I'm very proud of you for doing that. All right, so this is her. Mary is moving to Minneapolis. She's got her apartment. She's on her own for the first time. When was technically the first time that you were completely on your own? Was that Seattle?
Yes. So we talked about that. So what's funny is the company that I work for is actually based in Eagan, Minnesota, which is in the suburbs of Minneapolis.
That is true. That's funny.
And I have actually been to the Mary Tyler Moore throwing her hat up in the air statue that is in downtown Minneapolis.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yes, I've been on that little corner. I don't have a picture because I think one of the times I went, I had a phone that did not have a camera on it, like a flip phone or a BlackBerry or something. So I don't have a picture. So one day when I go back to Minneapolis, I'll definitely go there and take my actual photo. You can go. So moving to Seattle, and I mean, I remember taking this job and, I think my mom was really relieved that I had a job post law school that was paying me a decent salary. And, I had never been to Seattle, so that was also kind of a new adventure for me. And my mom and I drove across the country in my Saturn, my purple Saturn, that was my very first car. So we packed it up. We had the movers come with what little furniture and stuff that I had. And my mom and I hit the road. Actually, when we left for Seattle, Tiffany got married to her first husband Labor Day weekend. So I was in her wedding, and then my mom met me in Alexandria, Louisiana. She was staying with my sister in Lafayette, and my mom and I left to move to Seattle Labor Day weekend, and we drove from Alexandria up through the country through, I think we went Texas, Oklahoma, Wyoming, Montana, kind of up that stretch of the country, and then across Montana, Idaho, and Washington. So, so that was it. And I remember I had initially gone earlier in like August. I had flown to Seattle on my own to go and look for an apartment. And mind you, this was before, really there was a lot of internet options, and the website I used was apartment.com.
Yep.
I think that still exists,
still
though.
exists, yeah.
But I remember kind of my funny story was when you were looking for apartments back in the day, you would put all of the features that you wanted. And I don't know if I might have talked about this on a previous pod if we talked about living on our own. But I remember putting that I wanted a parking spot because of the movie Singles, that she had her own garage. I just wanted a spot because I knew like a lot of apartments wouldn't have an actual garage, and that I wanted air conditioning. Little did I know that not a lot of places in Seattle have air conditioning.
I didn't know that, yeah.
And like my first house didn't even have central air. It didn't even have a window unit.
Oh, wow.
And so everything kept coming back, like 9 out of the 10. Like I also wanted my in-unit washer and dryer. I didn't want to have to go to a laundromat. And everything would always come back, like 2 bedrooms, bathroom, parking spot, and it never had air conditioning. And so I think I called someone in the office in Seattle and was like, is there something with air conditioners in this like city? And they were like, yeah, no place has air conditioning. And I'm like, what? And they were like, you don't need it. And you just open your window and it's usually cool. And I'm like, what about the bugs? And they were like, we don't really have bugs. That's also
insane.
Yeah, I used to open my windows all the time. I don't even think I had screens on my windows.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, that was, living in Seattle was the first time. So I lived in an apartment. And then about 3 years later, I bought my first house down south in Kent, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You showed me that house.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first official living on my own, like officially living on my own, not counting when I was living at my mom's house for free, because I didn't have to pay bills.
Yeah, that's not your own.
I moved into a loft apartment. It was like a one bedroom loft apartment off of College Drive in Fairway View, and it was, I remember being like, I can't wait to live by myself, like, because I'd always had roommates, I always had siblings, we've talked all about that, and I was very ready to move into my first apartment and by myself. And I remember the very first night, I didn't have cable, I didn't have internet, like I didn't really have any, of course I have like a butt ton of movies, but the great thing about where I lived was I lived directly down the street from FYE.
Oh yeah.
And I briefly knew about FYE when I lived in Florida. We would go to the mall I believe it was in Fort Walton, and they had an FYE, or maybe it was Pensacola. And I basically, living on my own, I very quickly realized that I had been so used to always living with people that, like, I kind of didn't like it.
Same.
I found myself being very, I mean, God, especially for you, because you lived in like in a dorm and with your sorority dorm for such a long time.
And I always had really good roommates.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I only had like one semester with the roommate that we had kind of drifted apart as friends, but it still wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always so lucky that I had good roommates.
Yeah. I mixed bag of roommates. Some were good, some were bad, but I did not enjoy living by myself. I was constantly asking my friends to come over and hang out. I was constantly like I was always going out and doing stuff. But I look back on that time, and it's a special time because it was the first time that I truly had to pay my own bills, and I had to set up accounts and with energy and with the lease, and I had to it was the first time I really filled out like a application for an apartment and had to sign a lease and do all of that. And moving in, I moved into that apartment all by myself, and I did not have anyone to help me. I had my former roommate help move my couch that my parents gave me, and that was it. Like everything else I had to, and I had a loft, so I had to put all of the stuff up on the loft with this little spiral staircase by myself, which was a task. I had to there was a ladder involved. I should have just asked someone to come help me.
Oh, it's so funny that you say that, because I had lived in the sorority dorm so long, I did not have like apartment furniture. And then when I moved into my townhouse with my roommate, sorority sister, Pam, hey, Pam, her parents had given us some furniture, and then we bought a couple of pieces together. And when I moved out of that apartment to go to law school and live with my mom, I left her with all that furniture. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not going to take, how do you divide a chair or a love seat in half? I was like, no, you just keep it. I don't need it. So when I moved to Seattle, I didn't really have anything. Literally the only piece of furniture I moved with was a glider rocker that I had gotten at Maison Blanche. Nice. And so I remember when my mom and I first got to the apartment, we didn't really have anywhere to sit because that was coming in the moving truck. I had moved like boxes of like plates and my clothes and just other kind of random stuff, pots, pans, some like random kind of home things that my mom packed. I mean, that moving truck wasn't filled with a lot of stuff, just kind of a small one. But I remember that first day when my mom and I made it to Seattle, we went to a store to buy the bedroom set that we had until last year in our bedroom.
Oh, wow.
That was the bedroom set that my mom and I got. It was like $1,000 for the nightstand, the chest of drawers, the drawer set, and the bed. And then so I then had the glider rocker because like the movers came like the next day.
Yeah.
And then my mom did not like the idea of me like just sitting in the glider rocker eating food. So we went to Walmart.
Got a futon.
And no, she got me a little small, tiny dining table. And I actually had that dining table, I think until I moved into this house in the back dining room until my brother gave me the set that's in our back dining room now.
Gotcha.
But my mom and I put that little small dining table together and I had a place to eat dinner because my mom was very big on like eating dinner at a table. Oh. And then later I got the now bedroom set that was in the guest room that we now use because we got rid of that bedroom set. But it was funny because I bought furniture in very like time framed. It was like all of a sudden I was like sick of sitting on the glider rocker because I couldn't like lay down on a couch because I didn't have one.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to go get a couch today. And it was like I bought a couch in October.
Yeah.
And then I bought a coffee table and entry table in November. And then I decided I needed something. It was like I bought these pieces of furniture month by month. So it was really just funny thinking about that. Like, buying all of this stuff all on my own. And actually, it's our coffee table. I keep furniture, obviously, because this is all the furniture that I had in Seattle.
Yeah, I always relied on hand-me-downs. That was always kind of my thing. I'm trying to think when I actually bought like a brand new piece of furniture, and I don't think I ever have. Maybe a mattress.
Well,
that's not furniture, but like maybe a mattress.
Well, yeah, I would have to have a new mattress. Yeah. I don't think I could take a hand-me-down mattress. But what's funny is when we got married in 2017, we registered.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were kind of surprised. They were like, y'all have both like lived in apartments and all. And, why are you registering? It's kind of weird. And I was like, you know what, though? I said, if you saw the stuff in our cabinets, and not that I was dissing them because obviously I had been using them forever and they were good. I had never had like plates that were new of my own. They were all like my mom hand-me-downs, my sister hand-me-downs. I probably got a utensil set of my own, but like my knife block had been my mom's and it was all dull. And I probably had maybe the same towels that I had in Seattle. Like that's probably disgusting that I had them that long. But again, I had just had a lot of hand-me-downs. So I remember when I registered, I was like, I'm getting all new like plates and a knife block. I got very like stuff that we still use to this day. So thank you to everyone who bought us stuff from our registry. We use it.
We still use almost pretty much all of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my first. Is like, I think the kind of the new things were being alone. I've talked about that. But also buying things that like I wanted.
Yeah.
Like that it was, I loved going. That was kind of, I will say, what I did in Seattle a lot. Again, I've talked about how I was lonely and didn't have a lot of friends initially. But like on weekends, I would go to Pottery Barn or Crate and Barrel or Restoration Hardware. And that was what I did to sort of entertain myself, at least in the first year or so. Yeah. So that was fun.
Cute. Yeah. I remember I gave myself like a little bit of a budget when I moved into my first apartment, and I went to Walmart and I was like, okay, I'm going to get silverware, pots and pans, like get all of that. And I'm only going to spend this amount of money. And I very quickly realized like the initial like stuff that you need to move into an apartment, like all of the things I just listed, along with like, stuff like a shower curtain. And there are things that you just don't, there are things that you just don't, especially when you're young and this is your first time doing all that, you're not considering everything. And so I remember like having like, even for 2010 standards, I had like, looking back on it now, it was probably like a ridiculously low budget that I gave myself that I very quickly realized
wasn't enough,
and I was going to just have to bite the bullet because I didn't even factor in like buying a trash can. I didn't.
Yep.
I mean, like towels for the kitchen, towels for the bathroom, towels. All the towels, and like
a backup set,
shower curtain,
sheets,
shower rugs. I mean, like
kitchen
table,
mats,
lamps. I didn't even think about lamps. Like it was just like I remember just thinking stuff for the. I think I was just thinking stuff for the kitchen. So I was like, I just need to get silverware, some pots and pans. I'll be fine. Like I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, no, I need a toaster. I need a this. I need a that. And I ended up spending. I think I went in being like, I'm gonna spend $50, and I ended up spending like $200 or something like that because like
that's it.
I had to, like.
I'm saying that's not a lot.
Yeah, and I remember like telling people that. I remember telling someone that maybe it was my mom, and she was just like, "Oh, you must have just gotten." I was like, "I got the cheapest everything." Like,
this was before like Dollar Tree existed because I would have been there. I remember like I had gone to get my bedroom set, and so I had bought that, and one of the other things that we bought when I was there was a TV because I didn't have my own TV.
Yeah.
And then we had gone to Target to like outfit, like you just said, shower curtain, trash cans, all of those things that I didn't have. And I remember by the end of the day, and I was charging this because I mean, I didn't happen to have like $2,000 handy because my bedroom set was $1,000. I remember at Target, when they ran my credit card, it got flagged because they thought someone was like using my credit card to go on like a shopping spree, and so I had to call the credit card company. I'm like, That's funny. No, it's me.
Yeah.
And I remember the Target girl was like, "Do you want to apply for a Target credit card?" And I was like, "Sure." So
that's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the moving into the apartment, and then I know you haven't moved in. You moved into a townhouse at one point, but a house is even 10 times worse because then you have like all the garage and tools and gardening hoses and patios and entryways and all of that crap to go along with
Crapola to go along with that. Exactly. Yeah. But I am very glad that I don't live on my own anymore.
Aw, you're with me.
I always it was funny because when I wrote down that question, I was just like, God, like I've almost always had a roommate or a partner, like a domesticated partner, whatever you want to call it. Like
a girlfriend.
Yeah. Honestly, I really didn't live with that many of them, but like I realized, I was like, man, I really like have not lived on my own.
I didn't.
And I'm grateful for it. I mean, like I'm glad because when I think about all the times with like Blake, and even though Rick wasn't Rick and Chris and Casey were like honorary roommates because we all lived in the same apartment complex, and I just remember that, and I'm just like, I can't imagine. I had so much fun with my roommates. Like
yeah,
plenty of fights, plenty of disagreements, plenty of arguments, but like I had so much fun. I have so many fond memories of even living in that house in Old Jefferson with the 3 roommates. We had some times where I had so much fun. And then living on your own, I know some people love it. I know some people it's their thing and they love it, and you did it for a really long time living here, and I can't imagine living on my own now. Like I can't imagine doing it now. I would hate it.
And it's funny that you brought that up, because I was going to also say, for me, when I lived in Seattle, my friend from law school, Alex, she moved in with me for a few months, and then she moved out with another person. And then moving here, I've lived on my own. There was a blip where a sorority sister needed a place to stay.
Yeah.
She was getting divorced, and I had an extra room, so she stayed here. But I don't really count that technically, because she was hardly ever here. I was living on my own, so I won't even count those 2 people, because, I mean, it was such a blip.
Right.
From 1999 until April of 2017. So it was like almost 18, 19 years that I lived on my own without a roommate of any kind. And I remember as we had become a couple, the concept of you moving in came, like I was starting to think that might happen, and I remember starting to clean out my closet, which I still need to do. You get on my case all the time about my side.
I kind of did it for you.
Thank you. I love you. I remember starting to clean out the side that you now use, and then also the chest of drawers that you now use.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if he moves in, he's going to need a spot. And I kept thinking it might happen, and it obviously, that's a whole nother story for another day, happened much sooner than I actually thought it was. It really transpired pretty quickly, and we were both like, we want to be together. Why isn't this already happening? But I just remember once we made the decision for you to move in, I'm not going to say it jolted me in a negative way, but I was like,
I remember.
I was just like, oh my God, I now have a roommate that I have to think about, and I can't do not that I do anything crazy in here, but
I remember it took you a really long time. It didn't take like years, but I mean, like it took you a minute to get adjusted to me. They're all funny.
And having a dog
they're
also.
All, because I brought Maggie with me, and the main thing was that you turning off the light when I was still in the room. That was like the number one thing where I'm like, hi. You're like, like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, you were just so used to every time you left the room, you turn the light off. And you still do that now, but like you know that I'm also in the room. But I think like it was the first few months I lived here where I would be like in the bathroom, and you would just turn the light off, and I would just be like, Anna, and you'd be like, I'm sorry, and you turn the light back on.
I still do that in the bathroom all the time. But I did want to ask you a question in kind of like, so had you ever moved into an apartment that you hadn't sort of already established? Like, had you moved in with friends before?
Yeah.
Like, in the sense of like they were already there.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, like, when you moved in here, again, we were developing a new relationship as a couple, and you hadn't been in a house. I don't count, your grandmother's house or your mom's house, because those were kind of your family homes. But like, I kind of felt like you were also a little nervous about moving in as well. Like, how did you feel when you moved in here?
I was more, and we've talked about this before, so I'm not like going to be landing any like shocking reveal to you. Because we've talked about this plenty of times. I was more worried about you than I was about myself. I knew that when we met and we really started getting to know each other, and the prospect of us being in a relationship was really starting to happen, I knew that once we were together, I was like, this is going to be it. Like, this is my person. Like, this is the person that I'm going to end up with. And so I went into this with Maggie in tow, knowing that this is it. Like, knowing that, like, I found my person. This is my home. Like, this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I was more worried about you, because what worried me about you, and my main hesitation of me first really wanting to be in a relationship with you, was that you had never really been in a relationship before. And that is what scared me. Like, dating someone who's never been in a real relationship before as an adult, it's like going back to high school. It's like they get mad.
But I'm talking about moving into this house. Okay. Are you getting there?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Okay. I'm just saying that, like, when I moved in, I was more worried about you because you had never really, like, lived with someone before, like, in a relationship. That's what I was getting at. Okay. Like, that's what I was getting at. I was more concerned with that than I was about myself. It was a little bit of a... I mean, I've lived in a house before, so I mean, like, it wasn't like a culture shock or anything. I was like, whoa, a house. Like, I was just kind of like, it had been a really long time since I had lived somewhere that as soon as I moved in, it felt like I was home. Like, it felt like I belonged.
And I wanted you to feel that way. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people would see it from the outside, like, you know, he was moving into her house.
Right.
And I will say that's
how it felt at first.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit, you know, for a long time, and sometimes even randomly, I will slip and say my house, although it's our house.
Right.
Because I remember, like, I think I said it maybe later on after we were married. I was like, yeah, you know, my house or something I was saying. And you were like, our house. And I was like,
someone else said it.
Oh, okay.
It was Alicia that I think corrected you, and then I think you asked me about it.
Oh, okay.
Later, and I was like, yeah, you say it a lot, and I was like, it's fine, I know what you mean, because I knew what you meant. Like,
and it's hard to go from.
I also knew that you lived here for a really long time, and it was your house, and that's really, you know, that's you know me, I'm not tripping over that. So, I mean, like, I'm not freaking out over that.
And those were things that you have to adjust to.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I was more worried about you than I was about myself. I knew this was it. Like, I knew I was fine. I was more worried about you, like, someone coming onto your turf. I put that in quotes because turf's such a stupid word. But I mean, like, I was coming into your house, I was coming into your space, and I knew that there were going to be things that I did that you weren't going to like, and then I knew that there were things that you were going to do that I wasn't going to like, but it was your house.
Right, that's what I mean.
So it was like,
how could you tell me something about what I do?
Right, and so I remember the first time I kind of critiqued you about something.
Oh, I know what it is.
And it's you leaving food. It's not dishes. It's you leaving full on food in the sink or leaving trash in the sink.
But it was in the sink.
That still drives me insane. But it's just like, I remember saying it to you, and I remember I'm like, this is it. She's either gonna get really defensive over this, or she's gonna get like, or she's just gonna say whatever. And you still leave trash in the sink, so it doesn't
I don't
matter.
leave trash. I don't want people to think like we have roaches and bugs. It's like and again, I don't, like, if I have made a pot of like stuffing or something, I will just take the pot and put it in the sink, and eventually we'll dump the leftover stuffing in the trash. But I sometimes just don't do it right away. But I will do dishes, or I used to do dishes like every 2 days or so, because I was single, and it would be like one plate, one fork, a pot, a pan. And I'd be like, okay, I'll do this when the sink is more full. And I think that would drive you insane. And I'm like, well, I was just used to doing my dishes every 2 or 3 days. And now I do them usually. If you cook dinner, we have dinner, we will eat. And it's part of my morning routine. When I make my coffee, I will wash all the dishes in the morning when I wake up. And then sometimes I leave a couple, and then you finish them. But yeah, I knew that was coming. I knew that was going to be it. And again, I would like to make it perfectly clear. It is not like full on food nasty in the sink. I mean, there would be remnants of food in the pots or the pans or whatever, but not like, I mean, I wasn't, you know.
Okay. You don't have to.
You're mean.
You don't have to keep defending yourself.
I am going to defend myself because I don't want our pod listeners to think I'm like really super gross.
She is super gross.
I'm disgusting.
All right, so this is going to be a quick one because
okay.
because we're running. We're not running out of time, but it's morning time and we got stuff to do.
All right.
So there's a scene where there's like kind of the last part of the episode where Ed Asner's character shows up to Mary's apartment very inebriated.
Oh yeah.
And he is writing a letter to his wife on Mary's typewriter. And it made me kind of realize, I'm like, oh, this is the original drunk text. I'm like, this is the original drunk dial, because he's drunkenly writing a letter to his wife who's out of town for a month. And it got me thinking, like, have you ever drunk dialed or drunk texted someone? And I mean, I'm sure we have, but our relationship started over a drunk text.
Were you?
You said you had liquid courage and you texted me for us to meet.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking like the initial like you messaging me, but yes,
us meeting.
Us meeting was I had gone to a Women in Whiskey event at Lock and Key before it's now Hayride. And I just was like, let's meet.
Yeah.
And so we met up. You had suggested the Vine, which was closed, and we went to Londoner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of two things to that, what you just said about the typewriter. I think I've told you in high school when I sent the typewritten song lyrics to the Go-Go songs to my high school classmate, Chris, who I thought was super cute, and I liked him, but we never did anything about it. And then, so I've actually have done that. I wasn't drunk when I did that. Okay. I was full on aware that I was typing Go-Go's lyrics to him. And then, drunk texts. I mean, what the problem is we didn't have phones when I was in college. So I didn't have a phone until I was a third-year law student in Seattle. But I probably drunk texted like you when we were talking, or maybe just a couple of random people. But again, I wasn't really dating when I lived here. So
I'm sure I drunk dialed someone.
Drunk dialing, probably in college.
I'm
for
sure I did. But yeah, I just wanted to add that because we met via a drunk text.
Yeah. I wasn't drunk, super drunk.
You had the liquid courage.
I had the liquid courage. We had like little shots of whiskey, bourbon. Yeah. And I was probably feeling all nice and warm inside. And I was like, I need to meet this guy.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, I was like, I need to see if in person we have the same chemistry that we do via chat messaging and whatnot. And we did. We stayed and talked for like 2 hours or so at least.
We did. All right. You want to get into this plot summary?
Let's do it. We've been talking a lot.
All right. So... yeah, the episode was like 20 whatever minutes, so this isn't going to be a very long summary.
Oh yeah, they're pretty short.
And it is pretty cut and dry. Very very standard pilot, especially for the time. They did a great job. They filled out all the checks. They marked off all the checks for what a pilot should be. All right, so Mary Tyler Moore pilot summary. Mary Richards moves to Minneapolis. She has been dating a doctor named Bill for 2 years during his internship and residency. Bill had promised they would get married when he began his practice, but after 2 years, he continued to stall. Mary moved to Minneapolis and into an apartment in the same building as her old friend Phyllis Lindstrom, played by Cloris Leachman, R.I.P. Mary is greeted by Phyllis and her daughter Bess. Mary is nervous but excited to start a new chapter in her life despite still having feelings for Bill. Mary learns from Phyllis that another tenant, Rhoda Morgenstern, has been wanting this apartment for a while, but Phyllis can't stand Rhoda, so she gave it to Mary instead. Mary feels bad taking the apartment away from Rhoda until she meets Rhoda. Rhoda is very, she's just the very typical loud, dominant, very opposite of Mary, who's very kind of timid and kind of quiet. Rhoda has claimed the apartment, and it looks like there will be a little bit of a battle over it. Mary applies for a secretary job at WJM-TV, but the position has been filled. Manager Lou Grant. Okay, so this isn't in the summary, but so he starts asking her. First of all, he asks if she wants some scotch or some bourbon. It's like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And this, still of the time, and I think he asked her if she's married or she.
Yeah, he does.
And then asked her if she's seeing anyone. And then she's like, you can't ask me that question.
And
like,
we don't know at the time he's married.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's like kind of asking these very inappropriate questions that I'm sure that I know women were asked all the time. That really has nothing to do with anything, but it was really kind of impressive to be like, that's none of your business. Like, you can't ask me that question. So Lou, instead of being offended by a woman kind of speaking up for herself, he actually kind of likes that Mary stands up for herself and sticks to her guns. That's what I was trying to say. And so he thinks that she has spunk and instead hires her as an associate producer, which there was kind of this joke with like, you get paid $10 less if you're a head producer or something like that. Like, producers don't make any money. Mary meets the quick-witted head writer Murray and the dim-witted head anchorman for the 6 o'clock news, Ted Knight.
Oh, I love him.
Mary answers the phone, and it's Lou's wife, who's about to go out of town for a month, but Lou dismisses the call says he'll talk to her when she gets back. Bill surprises Mary, informing her he's in town and wants to see her. Shortly before Bill's arrival, an inebriated Lou shows up at Mary's apartment, saying how much he misses his wife, but still has time to note that Mary has a great caboose. Still,
oh my God.
Like, Mary desperately tries to get Lou to leave, but he insists that he needs to write a letter to his wife and notices Mary's typewriter. Lou begins to type his letter when Bill shows up. Then there's this really funny exchange where everything that Bill and Mary are saying, so like Lou's like in the background of Bill and Mary typing. You see like his
he's
back
typing and they're talking.
And everything that Bill and Mary are saying, Lou is repeating
and typing,
which was really funny because Ed Asner's he's a legend. So Bill seems like he wants to reconcile with Mary, but still doesn't want to fully commit to her. Mary notices how he chokes over his words when he says he loves her. Basically, like, she's like, I love you, and he's, just like not I don't know, like, it was just very, I understand the point of this was like the finality of Mary is single, she's living in Minneapolis, she is on her own, there is no man that's gonna get in the way of that. So she says her final goodbye to Bill, knowing that Bill's never gonna fully commit. He just kind of wants, kind of the whole, like, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free kind of thing. Like, she does all the things that a wife does, but they're not married. So that's good enough for him. I'm sure. Mary says a final goodbye to Bill, knowing that Bill is never going to marry her. Bill leaves, and Lou comforts Mary, saying that he didn't miss out on much, and Mary notes that Bill has, that was a very sweet ending.
Yeah.
End of episode.
Yeah, and I loved one that it was short. It introduced kind of all the players.
They did a really good job.
The players back at the apartment, and So, and again, this show launched other shows as well.
Oh yeah, they had 3. The show gave 3 spinoffs.
Yeah. Rhoda,
Phyllis,
Lou Grant,
yeah,
and then
Cloris, Phyllis.
Yeah, Phyllis. Yeah.
All right, you think that about wraps up this one?
Yeah.
All right, that about wraps up. Oh, by the way, this is on Hulu. I know we said that a second ago. This is on Hulu. I would recommend watching it. I kind of want to keep watching episodes. It's situational, so you could probably drop in on any episode and you'll know what's going on. But yeah, so that wraps up this episode of We Judge a Show by its pilot. Thanks for tuning in, and if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got for me?
I don't have too many, so I have the TV because she's working on a TV show. The snow, the broken heart, a car because she's driving. Any of the hats. I mean, she has like the little beanie hat that she throws up. The letter, the house, the doctor, the engagement ring for the broken engagement, the lock and the door because she's locked, because she's trying to lock her out. All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.